After raising my husband's daughter like she was my own, buying her school supplies, sitting through every recital, staying up with her when she had nightmares, I came home on her 18th birthday to find all my things in garbage bags. "We're moving on," he said, holding her shoulder. "You've always been temporary. She wants real family here now." She stared at me without a word. I left with nothing. But I still had the journal she accidentally left in my car, and what she wrote on page 47 changed everything. Let me tell you exactly how this went down, because people never believe it at first. I met Greg when I was 29, and honestly, I didn't think much of him at first. He was just a tired guy with a sick kid in his arms, asking the pharmacist what brand of children's ibuprofen worked the fastest. He looked rough, like he hadn't slept in days. His daughter, Lacey, was maybe 6 at the time. Feverish, clinging to him, her little arms wrapped around his neck. He didn't have her insurance card, and he looked panicked. I walked over and helped sort it out. The next day, he came back. Alone. Bought allergy meds. Said thanks for the help. I nodded. Went back to my register. Then, he came back again. Asked if I wanted to get coffee sometime. Greg had a calm way of talking. Not charming, exactly, but steady. Like he was used to keeping everything together because nobody else would. I asked about Lacey. He said her mom left when she was 4. Just packed up and vanished. No calls. No letters. She's got abandonment stuff, he told me like it was a grocery list item. But she's a good kid. I didn't think I wanted kids. But I liked Lacey. She was quiet, polite, always watching. Like she was waiting for something bad to happen. The first time I took her to a movie, she sat stiff the whole time, barely smiled. But she reached over and held my hand during the loud parts. That did something to me. Greg and I got serious fast. He moved in after a year. We got married in a courthouse ceremony, with Lacey holding my hand the whole time. She wore a little navy dress and white shoes. I'll never forget how small she looked that day. I threw myself into being her stepmom. I learned what snacks she liked, what stories helped her fall asleep. She had nightmares for years. Ones where her mom came back, but didn't recognize her. I was the one who sat on the floor next to her bed, rubbing her back until she calmed down. Greg was always tired or already asleep. It was always me who stayed up. I helped her with every science fair project. Taught her to shave her legs. Waited in the car during dance practice. Paid for braces when Greg's hours got cut. She started calling me Mom around age 11. The first time she did it, I cried in the laundry room where nobody could see me. She got older, and things got harder. Teenage moods, slamming doors, tears over boys who didn't text back. I kept showing up. I didn't miss a recital, a birthday, a parent-teacher meeting. I even fought with Greg a few times about how hard he was on her. I thought I was protecting her. And maybe that was my biggest mistake, thinking we were in this together. On her 18th birthday, I left work early. I bought a cake from the bakery she liked, and even got her a bracelet with her birthstone. Nothing fancy. We weren't rich. But I wanted her to feel loved. I opened the door to the house, and everything was off. Quiet. Too quiet. Then I saw them. Greg and Lacey standing near the kitchen. My stuff, bags of it, lined up by the door. Garbage bags. Not even boxes. My clothes, my shoes, my books. Dumped. "What's going on?" I said. Greg didn't flinch. He put his hand on Lacey's shoulder, like she was the one who needed support. "We're moving on," he said. Just like that. Like he was ending a subscription. I stared at him. "What the hell are you talking about?" He looked calm. Cold. "You've always been temporary," he said. "She wants real family here now." Lacey didn't say a word. Just stood there. No emotion. No tears. She looked right through me. I walked out with nothing. Just my purse and my car keys. I didn't even notice the journal in the back seat until later. Lacey's. She must have left it from the last time I drove her to school. I wasn't going to look at it. But then I did. And on page 47, I read something that made me stop breathing. I'll continue next with what was in the journal and how it changed everything. I stared at page 47 for a long time. It wasn't even a full paragraph. Just a few sentences, written in blue ink, messy like she was in a hurry. Told Dad I'd do it if he promised the house stays in my name. She's never really belonged here. Not like Mom did. He said it's just cleanup, she won't fight. I read it again. And again. She won't fight. That part hit the hardest. I sat in the car for over an hour. Engine off. Windows fogging up. That line played over in my head like a song stuck on repeat. Clean up. Like I was clutter. Like I was a mess they were finally done sweeping up. I didn't cry. Not then. I just drove to a cheap motel on the edge of town and sat there, staring at the ceiling. I kept thinking back to all the nights I stayed up with her when she had the flu. The hours I spent helping her through math homework she hated. The time I fought with Greg because he forgot her birthday one year and I scrambled to throw a party with 3 of her friends and cupcakes from a box mix. And now I was just trash bags. I didn't sleep much that night. The next morning, I made coffee with the motel's old machine, then drove to the county clerk's office. I wanted to see the deed to the house. Greg and I had bought it together 10 years ago. Or at least I thought we had. Turns out, no. The house had always been in his name. I had never paid close attention to the paperwork. He told me not to worry about it back then, said we were family, and that's all that mattered. The clerk looked at me with that quiet pity people give when you're clearly the last to know something. And then it got worse. The next week, I got served with divorce papers. Greg had filed them the day after I left. Everything in the paperwork was clean and simple. He claimed I abandoned the marital home and requested no financial support either way. He listed our marriage as having irreconcilable differences. It felt like they'd planned it, like they had the timing down to the minute. I hired a lawyer, even though I couldn't really afford one. She read through everything and told me flat out, "You won't get the house. You have no claim. And there's no proof of your financial contributions without documentation." I'd used my own savings for so many things, school clothes, vacation bookings, even covering bills when Greg was between jobs, but never kept receipts. Because who thinks they'll need to prove they raised someone? The journal stayed in my bag for weeks. I kept flipping to that page. I memorized it. Every loop and tilt of her handwriting. Every cold, cutting word. That was when I started thinking about what real family meant to them. And what it meant to me. So I started watching. Quietly. Carefully. I still had access to a few shared accounts, ones Greg hadn't bothered to change yet. He was sloppy with passwords, and I knew all his old ones. I logged into his email, his cloud storage, his Facebook. I wasn't looking for revenge at first. I just wanted to understand. But then I found the photos. Dozens of them. Some I remembered him taking. Family dinners, holiday mornings, weekends at the lake. But I wasn't in them. I'd been cropped out. Or just not included at all. Like I'd never been there. But the worst was one labeled Rebuild, 2020 Plan. It was a folder full of renovation ideas for the house. Paint colors, furniture swatches, even a note that read, "Lacey wants her mom's old room turned into a guest space. Will finally feel like hers." I stared at that line for so long my eyes went blurry. Her mom's room. The one I had turned into a study. The one I'd filled with books, candles, and the desk Greg bought me for our 5th anniversary. They were erasing me. On purpose. And that's when I decided I wasn't going quietly. I started small. I didn't want them to know I was digging around. So, I logged in late at night from a VPN. I knew Greg wouldn't check. He was lazy like that when it came to tech. First, I downloaded every photo I could find, especially the ones they cropped me out of. I found original versions tucked away in the cloud. Full ones. Proof I was there. Proof I wasn't some passing stranger in their lives. Then I went back to our shared email from when we first opened the mortgage. Old attachments, forms, receipts. And there it was, an old bank transfer from me to Greg for the house down payment. $20,000. Marked home investment. I forwarded that to my lawyer. She called me the next day. This changes things. Meanwhile, I kept reading through Lacey's journal. Not just page 47, everything. I felt sick doing it, but I needed to understand how deep this went. And that's when I hit something I hadn't expected. In an entry from 3 months before her 18th birthday, she wrote, "Dad said Mom might be coming back for my graduation. Not sure what to think. He said he told her I was grown now, that the door was open if she wanted to be part of things." I read it twice. 3 times. Her mom, the same woman who left when she was 4, is suddenly back in the picture? Then another entry about a month later. "She's not coming."
Surprise, surprise.
Dad was quiet for days after. I told him I didn't care. But I do. I want someone who chose me. He said maybe we could make things right. That's when I brought it up. That's when it clicked. They didn't just kick me out because they stopped caring. They did it because Lacey needed someone to take the fall for every woman who walked out on her. She needed me to be the villain, the last thing she could control before she became an adult and realized her mother was never coming back. And Greg? He was just going along with it because it kept him in the role of the good guy. So I decided to flip the story. I printed copies of her journal. Page 47, the entries about her mom, the plan with Greg. I blacked out her handwriting and rewrote it in text underneath, just the parts that mattered. I attached photos, screenshots, the transfer showing my investment, old emails between me and her teachers, her doctors, her coaches, proof of who had actually raised her. Then I mailed it, not to them, to every scholarship committee she had applied to the local paper that ran a feature about the father and daughter who built a life on their own. And most importantly, her grandparents, Greg's parents, the ones who always smiled at me politely but stayed distant. I had their address saved from Christmas cards. I sent them everything. I didn't hear anything for 2 weeks. Then I got a call. Unknown number. I answered out of habit. It was Lacey. She sounded shaken. "Why would you do that?" she asked. I didn't answer right away. I wanted her to sit in the silence. I wanted her to feel what I felt that day I came home to trash bags. Finally, I said, "Because you wrote I wouldn't fight." Then I hung up. Next, I'll tell you how Greg tried to fix it and how I made sure his reputation didn't survive it. 3 days after that call from Lacey, Greg showed up at my job. I was working the front counter at a dental office. Temporary gig to keep bills paid while things played out. He walked in like nothing had changed. Shirt tucked in, trying to look calm. But I could see it in his eyes. He was pissed. Embarrassed. "Can we talk?" he asked. I stood up. "We're talking." He shifted uncomfortably. "You made your point." I raised my eyebrows.
No.
"Not yet." He looked around the waiting room. "Not here." So I walked outside with him. Stayed close to the door. I didn't owe him kindness anymore. "You blew things way out of proportion," he said. I laughed. Right in his face. "You lied to me for years. You made me believe I was her mother. And you let her destroy me, so she could feel strong." "She's a kid," he said quickly. "She's 18. And you let her make a deal to throw me out like I was trash." He paused, and I could tell he hadn't expected me to fight back this hard. "Greg always thought I was too soft to do damage. I'm getting calls," he said. "From my parents.
For my job."
You made this messy." "No," I said. "You made this messy when you bet everything on the idea that I'd stay quiet." He stared at me for a long time. "I want this to stop," he finally said. "I'm willing to work something out. Financially." That was what he thought I wanted? Money? I didn't answer him. I just pulled my phone from my coat pocket and hit play on the voice memo I'd started recording the second we walked outside. His voice came through clear. "She's a kid. You made this messy. I'm willing to work something out." His face changed. "You can't save it," I said. "I have everything I need." And I did. My lawyer had already filed to reopen the financial side of a divorce. That bank transfer was more than enough to prove financial contribution to the home. And now I had him on record offering hush money. But I didn't stop there. I found Lacey's real mom. It wasn't hard. Her name was still on the old emergency contact forms. I searched her on Facebook, found a profile, same last name, same hometown. Still lived 2 towns over. I messaged her. She replied 3 days later.
Short.
Cautious. I told her everything. Sent the journal pages. The scholarship fallout. The cropped photos. The whole sick setup. I didn't hear back right away. But I didn't need to. Because 2 weeks later, I heard from one of Greg's old coworkers. The story had gotten out about how he let his daughter push out the woman who raised her just to make room for a fantasy family that never came back. His image at work?
Gone.
The promotions he was hoping for?
Done.
He got demoted. Eventually quit. Lacey lost her biggest scholarship. Not because of me, but because the truth caught up. One of the committee members said the family essay she'd submitted had major discrepancies. Once they started looking, they found all the missing pieces. But none of that is what mattered most to me. What mattered was that for once, they had to sit in the fallout. They had to explain it. To other people. Out loud. Next, I'll tell you what happened when I ran into Lacey in public and how she tried to rewrite the story one last time.
It was a Tuesday.
I was picking up groceries at the smaller store near the edge of town, the one people forget about, which is exactly why I shop there now. I was turning down the frozen foods aisle when I saw her. Lacey. Alone. Hoodie pulled up. No makeup. She looked thinner, older somehow. Like stress had started to show on her in ways she wasn't used to yet. She saw me before I saw her. I could feel it. That pause in the air when someone freezes. I didn't stop walking. I wasn't going to give her the power to decide how that moment went. But as I passed, she turned and said quietly, "Can we talk?" I stopped, mostly out of curiosity. I wanted to hear what lies she'd tell me now. She looked tired, like she hadn't slept. She kept glancing down the aisle, like she was worried someone might hear. I just wanted to say, "I didn't know it would go that far," she started. "You wrote it down," I said flat. I didn't mean for, she started again, but I cut her off. "You wrote, she won't fight. You knew what you were doing. You thought I'd just disappear." She didn't answer that. Her face twitched, like maybe she'd been holding in tears and couldn't anymore. Then she said something that surprised me. "Dad's not doing great." I just stared at her. "He drinks more now," she added. "Doesn't really talk. It's like he gave up." I almost laughed. He gave up? He got exactly what he asked for. She nodded slowly. "I thought if we could just start over, maybe Mom would come back." There it was. The core of it. The truth. "You didn't need to erase me for that," I said. "But you did." She didn't deny it. That almost made it worse. She just whispered, "I'm sorry." But it didn't feel like a real apology. Not the kind that comes from understanding. It felt like regret for being caught. For what it cost her. I nodded once. "You should write that down. Maybe on page 48. And I walked away. I didn't look back. But I could feel her standing there, not sure what hurt more, that I was still walking or that she couldn't stop me anymore. I still have the journal. I don't read it anymore, but I haven't thrown it away either. Some nights I catch myself reaching for it, like part of me still wants answers. But there's nothing left in those pages that can undo what they did. People say time heals, but they never talk about what it does to the parts of you that never get closure, just quiet. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just tired. And some days, I still look at the front door half expecting someone to say they made a mistake. But nobody ever does.